Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me at the table. I'm Thomas Dodderwick, and this week I'm on location in Billings visiting with Michelle Perlick, the Director of Adoption Services for Catholic Social Services of Montana. Michelle, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
In addition to your role as the Director of Adoption Services, you're also a social worker.
Yes.
You play many roles,
Many
just
hats.
like anybody in a small organization. Just tell us a little bit about what you do in all of your positions, just
Okay.
a big overview of that.
Well, for most of the life of Catholic Social Services in Montana, we've been predominantly an adoption agency. And so for the last 70 years, I believe, we've been doing adoptions in Montana. And so we are currently branching off into some other things. And with that branch off, I became the Director of Adoption Services. So what that really means is I oversee our whole adoption program. So I supervise one of our other social workers. But there are a lot of legal processes that happen with adoption as that we kind of have to facilitate and keep track of. So I really do kind of the quality control, work with our attorneys, making sure that we're kind of meeting the letter of the law, team up with my coworkers to make sure that we have all the parts and pieces in place so that we can legally facilitate these adoptions and make really great homes for these kiddos.
Why is Catholic adoption, because there's other ways that families can choose to adopt, why is Catholic adoption important?
Well, I think it's important for a lot of ways. First of all, I think it is a way to put action to our beliefs. We talk a lot about our beliefs in, right to life and the sacredness of all lives. And I think in our current day and age, it's no secret that it's the easier option for women to choose abortion or something else. Yeah. And our ministry really puts a boots on the ground approach to giving women another option. And we work with so many different women of so many different, economic, socioeconomic groups that, everything from homeless women to college women, just women that for whatever reason are in a place in their life that they're very alone, they need someone to walk with them. And we're really able to do that. But then also just moving forward into the formation of a family and really being able to put our beliefs into practice in that way of supporting these kiddos once they are put into an adoptive placement and helping the adoptive placements our families still really recognize that these kiddos are whole beings, that they're more than just the family they grew up in, that they're also, have this connection to their biological side of their family, no matter how troubled. And how do you navigate that? Sure. How do you work through that? How do they put their faith into action and really just create a whole picture for this child that's their birth family, their adopted family, all their communities. I'm a social worker, so I've have my master's in social work. So in social work, we talk about systems, how important all systems are to a whole person. And so Catholic Social Services just really lets me work with these families to create healthy, whole systems.
What kind of adoptions, when we think of adoptions, often we think of either birth mothers at the time of birth or orphans or that kind of traditional kind of adoption. Can you speak to the different kinds of adoptions that you work with?
Sure. So predominantly most of the adoptions that we really facilitate are birth through toddler. Not that we couldn't facilitate older, but generally speaking, when you get into older children that are being placed, like say teenagers or something like that, those placements are usually more facilitated through through one of the state agencies because there's usually kind of an involuntary component to it. All of the adoptions that we work with are voluntary, meaning the birth parents choose adoption. And so that, generally speaking, more has a tendency to happen with a newborn before a child is really kind of bonded and connected to the birth parent. So predominantly they're all voluntary, and they're generally infant to toddler. Sometimes it can be siblings. Sometimes we get twins. Sometimes we might have a parent that has, an older child and a younger child, and and gives birth to a child, and they just can't. Sure. We've had in our past, we've had like a homeless family that had 2 toddlers and just couldn't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. We've had parents that have tried to parent that have been like, yes, we'll give it a shot, and then realized that they just weren't able to, and that it was too much for them emotionally, mentally, financially, and every other way. And so worked with them to support them, and just really trying to come about to these best outcomes for everybody.
You don't have to be a Catholic to use the services of Catholic Social Services of Montana. What other kind of requirements or restrictions might there be for the services?
So for birth parents, pregnant moms, there are no requirements. We'll work with anybody. If you are feeling alone, you are feeling in need, you just have questions, we're here. That's what we're here for. I give advice all the time. I connect people up to attorneys. I help direct them. We do that completely free of charge. That's just a service we provide for them, no matter what that outcome might be, as I just try to be a really good resource for women who are in need, or families that are even looking into, supporting someone. Now, on the adoptive parent side, within our infant program, we require that the adoptive parents be practicing members of a Christian faith that our board recognizes. Catholic Social Services is actually is umbrellaed under both the Eastern and Western Diocese of Montana. So both Bishop Vedder and Bishop Fleming sit on our board of directors, and they kind of lay down, these are what our requirements are and what our expectations are for that program. So they have to be practicing members of a Christian faith. What does that mean? People ask me. I'm like, well, what that means is that you are active enough in your parish that your priest or minister would be able to speak to your ability to provide a Christian formation and a good family for that child. Another requirement that we have is that the adoptive parents be married at least 3 years. Not that there aren't great people that are newly married, but those of us that have all been married can tell you there's a little bit of an adjustment period. Sure. And we want you to be really solid, because adoption is a beautiful and wonderful thing, but it is an emotional roller coaster. There is a lot of turbulent feelings and emotions and grief and loss and joy, and it can flip from second to second to second. So we really like our adoptive families to be really strong with parents, to be really strong with each other. And that's another piece where that faith piece comes in, and it's really important, because there are times in the process that I tell my adoptive parents all the time, there's going to be a point that nobody, no matter how much they love you, is going to understand. And really, you need to be able to lean on your spouse, and you need to be able to lean on God. And that's what's going to get you through this. The third piece is that we do require that the adoptive parents be not only married for 3 years, but it does need to be a heterosexual relationship. And then there really, as far as like financial components, there really isn't. We do offer a slide scale fee. It was very important to our board that this be something that any family be able to afford to do. And so we offer a slide scale fee, and we're really proud of the fact that our fees entirely fall within the federal and state tax rebates, so they can recoup all of their fees. So so it's actually, on the surface it's like, but in the long run it actually all works out. So those are really, and they have to live in the state of Montana for our infant program. That's the other one, because our families do have to be licensed foster care parents in the state of Montana to be able to have the placement. And that just has to do with the legal process. That doesn't have to really do with us as our faith and agency, but the legal process that has to happen.
In our short conversation that I've had with you before we even started recording, and now visiting with you, it is clear what you are doing is more than just a job to you.
Oh,
Speak to that passion and where you find the energy, because just as much as you were talking about for the families, it's an emotional roller coaster. I imagine that also must be the same for you.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I've had cases that I went home and cried, and my husband is always like, let's say the Serenity Prayer together, because, you know, you so badly want this to work out for everybody. And you see people that are at their lowest point. You know, I've had moms that are homeless. I've had moms that are addicted. I've had moms that are trafficked and abused. I've had, you know, and even our moms that are relatively healthy, so to speak, that, you know, maybe the college mom, you know, when you meet with her and you see the depth of her love for her child. I think that's one of the big fallacies about adoption, is that these kiddos are unwanted and unloved, and, you know, and my experience is such is that these women, for whatever reason, can't parent or don't have the skills to parent or whatever, but the love is always there. And when you see that selflessness, you just can't help but be inspired. And so, you know, for me, that passion just comes from seeing that. I mean, I think it's twofold in that it's such a blessing to be able to, one, have a job that you can be open in your faith. That makes, you know, lower pay, longer hours, all of that. I mean, that's like, there's not a dollar value you can put on that. To be able to be open about what you believe and to say that you tell people openly, I pray for you, you know, or what, any of that. So that part of it, but you know, just, boy, I'll tell you what, you have faith because you believe in something that you don't necessarily see the tangible proof thereof, you know, at least that's how I kind of think of faith. But I can tell you in this work that it is very common for the hair on the back of my neck to stand on end, that you kind of see the breath of God, you know, like you see the windmill or the chime move, because you see things happen that are like, okay, that was kind of weird. You know, it really is very tangible, and that's a little bit addictive, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, you enjoy seeing it, but more importantly, it's just that feeling of making a difference, you know, that you know, I had one mom one time, and it's one of my favorite stories, that when we got through with her signing her papers, which is usually really emotional and gut-wrenching, she looked at me and she said, this was hard. She says, but I feel good. And I said, you do? And she said, yes. She says, I never knew that this is what love was. She said, for me, love had always been manipulative and abusive and controlling. And she's like, I never understood that this is what love was. And I'm like, that's been 7 years ago, and I still get goosebumps and the hair on my arm stands on end. And when you feel like you can, you know, like, I can't change someone's life. I can change a moment of their life, though. And you think, you know, if that one moment, maybe it's the moment that, you know, she gets, you know, motivated to change something in her life, that, you know, she's not homeless anymore, or she makes better, healthier connections or whatever, it's totally worth it. And even if she doesn't, she experienced one moment in her life. And I think that's, if I had to say anything about the ministry that we do, is to just maybe be that one moment for someone who's never experienced it before.
While a large portion of Catholic Social Services of Montana is adoption, there's also some other programs.
Yes.
And so can you speak a little bit to the other services through?
We're super excited about being able to expand. So Catholic Social Services is a part of Catholic Charities, which is the national organization. So we kind of are under that umbrella. So in other states, Catholic Charities does different things and offers more service. And like I said before, we've been predominantly an adoption agency. Well, our board and our new director are really working on growing that. So that's super exciting. The first thing that is kind of connected into the adoption world that I start with is the baby boutiques that we have. We have one in Helena, and we are so excited. We just opened one here in Billings, and our response has been phenomenal. So what that really is it's a place that that families can come to and can get items that they maybe wouldn't be able to get with their SNAP benefits, or or even if they don't qualify for SNAP benefits and the month is just a little tight, and they're like, how are we going to buy diapers? Diapers are expensive. Yeah. And so they could come in and get some diapers. We're just like, here, have some diapers, and really helps them get through, so then they can use their money to buy food or pay the electric bill or something of that nature. So that's very cool. So we just started that. We have the one in Helena, and we just started the one here in Billings. And that one, just to kind of give the little bit of plug for that, is actually housed at Riverstone Health, which is perfect. It's like the perfect place for it. And it's open Mondays and Thursdays, 11 to 1. So anybody, you don't have to have an appointment. You don't have to meet any sort of financial requirements. You just go in and you say, hey, I could really use size 4 diapers. And they'll be like, here's some size 4 diapers. There's some clothing items. There might be some formula when we have it. But our space is a little bit limited right now, so we're kind of focusing on that. Our Western Montana, they have more of a boutique with like more clothing, blankets, that sort of thing. But we do have a little bit of that here. But predominantly right now, we're really focusing on those diapers, getting the diapers out there. Our first day open, we had 14 people come in and seek diaper services. That was the first day before the word even got out. So I really envision the Billings one really blowing up. So if that's something that if anybody's church or community would want to do a diaper drive or a fundraiser for, we would be so appreciative. We really would. And then that would let us connect that out. That being said, it is here in Billings, but it doesn't mean that if someone was here from Miles City and needed something, that they couldn't come in. And our dream really is to have more of these in other parts of the state. So if that's something that someone's interested in, maybe like in Miles City or Glendive, give us a call, and we would love to talk about facilitating something like that. Sure. So then the next thing that is even more exciting for us is we are actually expanding into mental health services. So especially in eastern Montana, where everything's so rural and so far in between, this is just really a need that has been identified by many of our priests and many of our parishes, that we really need that support for, that they have folks coming in that just need that higher level of help and support. And so we just hired a director for that position that they're in the process of developing, getting, billing and stuff like that figured out. And so those services, I think within probably about a month, we're going to be starting to offer those services. It can be done through telehealth. We're going to offer that. So that can be set up anytime. And then he's actually going to be trying to get out to the different parishes every so often, so that there can be some in-person support. And then in addition to that, Phil is the name of our new director. He's also going to be working on doing educational events in the community for mental health first aid, so that, say, maybe somebody within the parish that wants to be kind of that connect person to kind of assess and direct to services to kind of do an immediate intervention, that we can provide that. So that is a really big need that the communities have had, whether, you're in Circle or you're in Miles City or, Plentywood. Sure. It happens that they need more support. So we're excited to be able to provide that.
It sounds like there's so much that Catholic Social Services of Montana does. If there are people who do want to help support, whether it's financially or diapers or just anything at all, how do they reach out to you? And anybody who might need the services, how do they reach out to you?
So there's a couple of ways to do it. They can always call. My office directly here, which my number here is 406-252-3399. They can always call me directly, even if I'm not in the office. It forwards to my email, and I get the message, and I can call them back at any time. When it comes to pregnant women, I'm pretty much available 24/7. Easter, Christmas, I pretty much work all the time. There's like 1 week a year that I head for the mountains, so I get a little time out. But other than that, then there's another social worker covering. So they can call here. Anyone who wants to donate or volunteer, I would encourage them. You can call here. I would love to talk to you. But it would probably be more efficient for you to call our Helena offices, which is where our director is and where our administrative support staff is, which that number is 406-442-4130. And you'll get a person pretty much all the time immediately there. We also have a website, which is CSSMT.org. So the initials for Catholic Social Services Montana.org, and that will slot you in a million different directions, whether it's to donate, whether it's wanting to get more information about adoption, whether it's wanting to schedule mental health services. It'll kind of funnel everybody out in whichever direction they might need. So yeah.
Michelle, thank you for taking time today to visit with me and just to share about the ministry and the beautiful work being done by Catholic Social Services of Montana.
You're welcome. And I welcome anybody who would just, I'm always happy to talk to anyone. So if anybody has any questions, how does this work? I have a sister that's considering adoption. We'd want to know a little bit more about mental health first aid. Call us. We'd love to talk. That's one thing. We're a very small organization. There are 6 of us in the entire state of Montana that work for this organization. And so I'm generally more than eager to talk to somebody. So I would love to visit with anyone who'd like to have some more information. So please feel free to reach out.